You're listening to the Support Report with Be Present, where we share real stories from young adults and how support changed their lives.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning into another episode of the Support Report. We are Be Present. I am your host, Justin Peters, and I am joined by my fabulous co-host, Kiara Riga. Kiara, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. Excited for this conversation, as always. It's been a blast having you these last couple episodes. Why don't you go ahead and introduce who the third person on the line is?
Sounds good. We are joined by an awesome guest today. We are joined by amyp.uliano. She is the mother of a two-time lymphocytic leukemia survivor who was an AYA both times she was diagnosed. So we're really excited to get some caregiver perspective. And so Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so honored and privileged to be with you guys today.
Likewise.
I'm so glad to have you. So do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about your daughter's cancer journey, how she was diagnosed?
Yeah, so Anne-Marie was first diagnosed when she was 20. She was a rising junior at a college in Boston, Massachusetts, and she had come home for Thanksgiving break. She didn't look too good, but she insisted she wanted to go back, and she went back, and the next thing I know, we're getting a call that she was in the emergency room and that she potentially had leukemia. So we went up to Boston, and sure enough, she was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. She went through the standard treatment at the Brigham and Women's Hospital and Dana-Farber, and she was in remission for 5 years, and we were going to be celebrating. And I get a call, and she said, "Mom, I relapsed." So she'd gone 5 years. We thought we were going to be in the clear, and she did relapse. And so unfortunately, the first time around, there were no viable stem cell transplant donors. And at that point, the hospitals weren't really at that, Dana-Farber really wasn't doing the haplos or doing any other kind of stem cell transplants. And so she didn't qualify. So she had gone through the standard treatment, which we thought if she got out of 5 years, we would be fine. So immediately, what could we do to get her back into remission so we could move towards stem cell transplant? And so she was actually went on an immunotherapy protocol, which immediately put her back into remission. And then about a year later, about 9 months later, we were able to successfully do the stem cell transplant. One of the things that we did find when she did do the immunotherapy, which may have not have been caught if she, had just gone into the stem cell transplant, was that she actually had two tumors. She had a tumor on her spine, and she had a tumor on her lung. And the immunotherapy, they just changed the formula a little bit, and that wiped out. So we were very fortunate, because if she had done the stem cell transplant, it wouldn't have succeeded. And so she did do the stem cell transplant. I was her haplo donor. And if you've heard of that, or if it's something that your doctor may have suggested, basically, she's an only, she has no sibling. So it was my husband or her dad and I were tested, and whoever was closest got chosen, and it was myself. Easy process, a few shots. The actual retrieval is very quick. It's just doing a blood transfusion, or if you were to donate blood. And that was it. And she had the stem cell transplant. We did have a few bumps along the way, but she did successfully come out of it. And this year she will be 4 years in September. And obviously we're looking forward to that 5-year mark again.
That's amazing. Wow, I can't believe that. Sounds like such a roller coaster. I mean, you think you hit 5 years and you're in the clear, especially for blood cancers. So that's awful, but right before it kind of relapsed. How did you feel about being her donor and being able to kind of give her that gift?
I think that was very special to me. I think it kind of culminated, a lot of different things that we had gone through together over the years. Being together through the ups and downs. She did, with part of the side effects that she did have having the chemotherapy treatment, is she did have double hip replacements. So we had gone through that together. She had some issues with her mouth. She's had some memory issues. She's had some ambulatory issues. So, it kind of was like, okay, I birthed her one time. I'm going to give her give her another chance at life. So I thought that was really kind of cool.
You guys seem really close. Was there any tense emotions, feelings, times throughout this last, I guess it's been 9 years now?
Yes. Yeah, it has been an emotional roller coaster. And I really do feel one of the things that, when I speak to other parents who have children that have some sort of, illness, is that, the hardest part is the mental health part, right? I think now they've really gotten all of the therapies and all of the treatments down, but it's the mental health piece that really is the most difficult. Like, I would say 99% of this particular period of our time has been devoted to strengthening the mental health piece. There's a lot of things that are said, a lot of things that happen that, are just purely emotional driven, right? They're not fact-based driven. And those are the hardest things to really overcome, right? Because the basis is something that's really deep inside of you. And, sometimes doesn't make sense how it comes out and the way it comes out. And so, yeah, that definitely has been the most difficult piece of the whole process.
Yeah, why don't you talk a little bit more about that? So listeners are listening in March, and in our theme, we have a theme here, a monthly theme, and this month's theme is forgiveness. And if I'm reading between the lines, I'm hearing a lot of forgiveness in that response back there. So you mentioned that so much of this is emotions and not factual, and there has to be this period of follow-up for forgiveness. So how did you guys work through forgiveness whenever you guys were going through this process together?
Yeah, so really, for forgiveness, I feel like plays a huge part in your journey. Part of your healing is forgiveness, right? So, with Anne Marie, I there's a lot of things that are said. She was angry because she was diagnosed, and all of that time in her life was taken away. You're 20 years old, you're going to be turning 21, you're in college, you're supposed to be having the time of your life and setting up for your future. And that's literally taken away from you, right? Like the rug pulled out from underneath you. And it's just not fair. And, how did this happen? And why did this happen? And, as a parent, like, what did I do wrong? And so I think the first thing is, just be, as a parent, being able to give yourself forgiveness and understanding and giving yourself grace that, it probably isn't anything that you did. It isn't you give them too many hot dogs, or you gave them apple juice that was warm, or whatever. It's just something that happened, and it's inexplicable, and nobody can understand it and why it happens to your child, but it's not your fault. And so you have to start giving yourself grace. And then with that in time, all of these things that are happening when your child is going through treatment, it's just, they're so angry and they're so upset, and they're saying things to you that, like, are just awful. And you have to understand that it's not them. It is them, but this is their way of expressing how they're feeling, and they can't go to anybody else. And so you just sort of have to be very, at peace at, okay, this is what's happening. This is not truly how they are feeling about you or feeling about, the weather or whatever. It's just, this is their way of understanding and accepting and making some rhyme or reason out of what's going on in their body, and emotionally, and how, they're looking at this big horizon and they're not seeing what they thought they were going to see. So they're frustrated and they're angry, and they have hate and resentment. And you just have to understand that it's not towards you, it's towards the situation, and being able to decipher the differences, right? I mean, a lot of, you always, the mean things come out, you close the door and they don't want to hear the door closing. Why are you talking? I don't want you to be talking. Why are you watching this? Why are you wearing that? Like, things that are so like general just become like nuisances, which just is enough to put someone over the edge. So if you can think about your normal life and things that put you over the edge, and then you throw in like all this medication and stuff that's going into your body, and you're not feeling good, lashing out, and it's a comfort zone for them, right? Like, they know you're not going to walk away. They know you're not going to be mad at them. You just take it and go on. And I think when I think of forgiveness too, I mean, there's so many layers to that. Not only is it the forgiveness for yourself, but your forgiveness for your patient or your child. But, you also have the family dynamic where, things may be going on family wise, and, you're trying to balance all of that, and things are said and things are not delivered upon, and people change the way they act. And you have to understand too, that like, they're going through this too, and you have to, give them grace too. And so, and then also the caregivers, the actual doctors and the nurses. I mean, they have a job to do, and, they make mistakes too, and you have to understand that that's part of it. And also to like, your child or the person that you're, caregiving to is number one to you, right? So you want the best to care, and you want the most attention from them. And you have to understand that they're all really busy, and that, you have to be patient, and you have to, also give them grace.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Kiara, I'm wondering if Amy's story of Anne-Marie and her emotions and everything resonates with you when you were going through your experience and lashing out, and maybe what forgiveness looked like on your end.
Oh my God, I would get upset at like the dumbest things. And I don't even really have medication. Like, I'm on treatment and will be forever, but none of my treatment involved like steroids or anything that is typically attributed to these kind of lash outs for cancer patients. I didn't go on steroids, so I was just angry at nothing. But I was constantly upset, like, oh, my mom told this person and she wasn't supposed to. And then it was like, oh, she didn't tell this one and she was supposed to. And it's like, she could never win no matter what I did. So, yeah, I think for me, I had to kind of go through a journey too of like, yes, this affects me more than anyone, but it affects all of us. And so everyone needs a little bit of grace. And yeah.
Did you also have a safe space with you and your mom?
Yes, we had to.
I was about to say, if anyone is well equipped, I feel like it's got to be mom in this situation. I mean, they've seen some of the worst, and they've raised you. So yeah. I'm sure there's some quick forgiveness there. Amy, I'm curious too, on the caregiver, the hospital, the providers in that sense too. You're so gracious enough to even give them the flexibility in that area. That would be challenging. Was there a specific situation where there was a mistake that was made, and then you realized that these people are human as well, and they deserve some forgiveness?
I don't think there was any like specific mistake. I don't think there was a mistake, but like, how just in general, and it's part of panicking and part of being like, you don't want to see your child sick. Unfortunately, Anne-Marie ended up getting C. diff, which is, this really bad septic thing where, you're really ill, and it was just like, she needs like help her, she needs attention, and like the nurses are busy doing their own thing, and you're standing outside the door like, you need to come in and help, and they're like, we're going to be there in a minute, and you're like, no, you need to come now. There was an incident that she ended up actually being septic, and it was just trying to convince the phys, who is actually the person in charge who determines who goes to an ICU unit, like, she needs to go. I need her to have constant, like, you don't understand. If you don't move her to the intensive care, I am going to do everything in my power to get there. Like, I will go to the like, show me where the executive suite is. I'm there. So I think, like, and I think Anne-Marie would sometimes get angry with me because I would be like all over it. But like, I think that she has to understand that as being an only, I'm the mom. I've watched everything unfold. I demand that kind of, I expect that, right? And you have to sort of, and then, after you're at the hospital for a while, you get to know everybody and you kind of get the routine, right? So you kind of say to yourself, man, I was just a little harsh there, I really should reel it back in. I mean, I am very much like overprotective and definitely like demanding and expect certain expectations. And, you just, I now being in it, like, I know what to expect. I know, like, don't try to do things at shift changes. Don't try to do things, during reports. Don't, so you get to kind of get into the rhythm, and you get to understand, their workflow. And so you do build up some forgiveness for some of the crazy things that you do, which I have done.
I didn't even ask, what was your experience with cancer prior to your daughter's diagnosis?
None.
Nothing.
Nothing really. I relatives had, I had, but just not part of that whole process, right? We would see them here and there, but not anything involved of what the day-to-day was. And so, yeah, this was just, out of the blue, kind of by my coattails, just learning as much as I could possibly, asking lots and lots of questions. Of course, that annoyed Anne-Marie, but like, I think in the end, like, she realized that it was important that those questions were asked. And so a lot of asking questions, a lot of staying on top of the nurses and the doctors and the medical team, being very present. You have to be very present and advocate for your patient.
And so all of that, I think, makes total sense. How did you go about managing kind of you wanting to support Anne-Marie while also, respecting her wishes of, not wanting you to ask too many questions, and also processing your own grief along with hers?
Yeah, so I think that is a very slippery slope that we always are on, right? She's actually going to be 30 this year, and having to recognize that she's 30 and she's an adult, right? So, before COVID, I would go to every doctor's appointment. We would come up with an agenda of questions to ask, and to make sure that every question is asked, so I'm not like asking questions that I shouldn't be asking. But since COVID has happened, I think I was on one telehealth, and, I've pretty much turned it over to her. But I think that's always something that's very difficult to navigate because, what I feel when I need to be involved and when she feels that I need to be involved sometimes don't look the same, right? So I think I don't like surprises, right? So if there's something that's going on with her that maybe I can see down the line may manifest into something bigger, I want to be involved in that. And I have to realize now that she's 30 that, she should be really navigating that on her own. So that's a constant kind of, we get into a lot of heated discussions about that. And I'm happy that she gives me forgiveness for just being this overzealous helicopter snowmobile or snowplow parent, because, I think that I just don't want it to get away from us, right? I want to keep it close checked so that there will be no surprises.
And no more hot dogs and warm apple juice.
No more hot dogs and warm apple juice. For sure.
Well, Amy, I really appreciate you coming on the support report, giving us your time. Before we ask our final question, if somebody resonated with something you said, if they're looking for support, especially caregivers with children that are recently diagnosed, is there a good way for them to reach out and get connected with you?
Sure. I am definitely on LinkedIn, so they can look me up on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. They could definitely reach out to me through those two avenues. If they want to reach out to you, you have all my contact information. I would just say to everybody that's starting on the journey is get a notepad, get a notebook, and make sure you keep that in your pocketbook or your bag or your backpack. And I just want to say that dads are good caregivers too. I've seen a lot of dads really step up, and it's not just a mom. It's a family thing. You're in it together. But yeah, I would just say always go with a notepad and have questions pre-prepare your questions, because when you get into the appointment, a lot happens. Like things could be happening. Whoever you're caregiving for could become sick, and the focus turns on that, and you're not getting these other questions. So those are really the things that I can give for tips and tricks is, and now like you can also record a lot of stuff. There's lots of apps out there that you can look online to get that are free, that you can record like your different appointments and stuff like that. But be prepared and don't be afraid to ask the question. Even if you think it's silly, just ask the question, because you don't know, and it may be significant to their treatment or their caregiving.
Yeah, I think that's good general advice for any doctor's appointment, to be honest. Not only if you're going through cancer, but I have quickly found through some appointments, I've broken plenty of bones in my life. I'm like, wow, I really wish I would have recorded all of this and asked them and stayed curious, asked the right questions, came into some of those appointments more prepared. So that was definitely a learning lesson for me. Amy, our final question for you. We would love to know through your experience, what does great support look like?
So I think great support really starts with just being yourself, caring, being open to just about anything that comes your way without judgment. On this that you're on, is could be similar to others, but is definitely going to look different. There might not be a prescribed treatment plan, so you're going to have some ups and downs. You're going to have some bumps in the road, and that just to just have grace and just really work as a team. try to stay on, try to stay on the same page, and don't hesitate to ask for help, right? I mean, you need help, as much as I want to do it and I can fight this and I can do this alone, her and I, him and I, as a family, we can do it alone. You need those moments where someone else can just slide in and, support you. And it doesn't have to be anything humongous, right? It could be a phone call, it could be a card. It could just be, I need to go take a shower. Can you sit with her for an hour? I think that you have to be open to that. And it doesn't mean that you are failing or you can't do this. It's just that you need some self-care in order for you to be able to care for your child who's sick, or your patient, or however you want to call it. I mean, I think I learned that I can only be good for Anne-Marie when I'm in a good space and I'm feeling good and I'm healthy, and working on myself. Not only is that a physical thing, but also a mental thing too, health wise.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thought, because I think many caregivers, especially primary caregivers, forget they can ask for help and to show up as their best self. If they want to show up as their best self, then they got to take care of their self as well. I also know one other note on great support as well. Whenever Anne-Marie comes into a new room, you guys quickly do a room reno. I think you mentioned that somehow you always get the big flat screen TV. What are some other ways to make the room feel homey?
Yeah, so we, obviously being in and out of the hospital quite often, we kind of learned like how to make it home. So like we would always request the big TV, but we would also bring photos. Like we would have, actually, I have these boards that have all of, pictures of her friends, and we've posted them around the room. They don't really like that, but we still do it. A lot of things on the window, you can get those jelly, they're seasonal. We get those. We've put lights up. We had a little Christmas tree. We bring games from home. A lot of board games, a lot of card games. We've, played, game like charades and things like that. We try, bring food. If they allow you to bring in the food, we bring in food. Also, you can ask, a lot of times the hospitals will they order out, like they do like an Uber Eats kind of thing, but the hospital pays for it and it's part of your food. So like if you're on a restricted diet and you like want Annie's mac and cheese, they'll be able to do that for you, or Amy's frozen dinners and stuff. I know when Anne-Marie went through her stem cell transplant, they were very careful on what she ate and what she was able to eat. And one of the things they allowed for her is to order, and she could get a variety of frozen meals because that was something she could eat. So again, ask the questions, and definitely, you're going to be in that room. They're going to be in that room for a long time, sometimes 90 days, 30 days, 45 days. Definitely make it your own, even with your pajamas. You don't have to wear hospital gown. I mean, it is easier during certain treatments that to stick with the hospital gown, but a lot of times, she was in shorts and top, or she'd change into some, a nightgown or shorts and top and during the day, I would have her get up and shower and, get dressed. I think that helps a lot with making you feel better, right? Just having, new clothes on and, putting on, you know, shoes and socks and walking around. We've also had an exercise bicycle brought in from the physical therapy group, and she was able to ride a stationary bike. So those are the things too. And one of the things too is especially for younger adults, is, make sure you hook up with the hospital for the PT and OT, because when they're laying in bed, obviously, not that they're old, but like their muscles do kind of soften up. So definitely that's all part of the treatment plan, is, do stairs, have OT, PT come in and do that.
I think those are all awesome suggestions, some of which I didn't realize. I am definitely going to ask the hospital to order out next time I have to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying you're going to be able to get like fast food and stuff, but you can get, I believe they typically have something where they work with a local market, but they did, you have to do that through the dietitian though.
Right.
Like, and that's another thing too, is take advantage of the dietary or the nutritional people, because they just love, when they're being asked about what should I eat when I leave and what's good when you're nauseous and things like that.
Oh, yeah. And I think using food to help manage side effects and things like that has been super, super helpful to me. So, yeah, I think that's all really wonderful advice. So, Amy, thank you so, so much for joining us today. This was really helpful and definitely going to help some other parents and supporters. So, yeah, that's it for this week's episode of the Support Report. We will catch you on the next one.